All right, what's going on, guys? I am Kadarius Washington, and it is Football Friday. So you know what that means? It is time for another edition of the CW Six Pack. You already know how we do it, folks. We take 6 games from the NFL weekend, 2 in the early window, 2 in the late afternoon window, the Sunday nighter, and the Monday nighter, and we pick those games against the spread. And believe it or not, folks, this is the first time this season that we're actually going to have a normal CW six pack, because on week 1 we took 7 games to go along with that first Friday game in Brazil. And then last week we had that Monday night doubleheader. So we did that along with only one 4 o'clock game. That, of course, was the Eagles and the Chiefs. And this week, we're finally get to do the regular 6-pack as scheduled. And folks, I know we had to sweat a little bit last week, but guess what? We had another winning week. We went 4-2 in our picks last week. We took the Eagles minus 1.5 against the Chiefs. We took the Patriots plus 1.5 against the Dolphins. We took the Buccaneers plus 2.5 against the Texans. And we took the Chargers minus 3.5 against the Raiders. And the 2 games that we lost, we took the Cowboys minus 5.5 against the Giants, with Russell Wilson looking like his old Seattle self in the game, that overtime thriller. And then we took the Vikings minus 3.5 against the Atlanta Falcons, which I'm going to be honest with you folks, that was a really stupid pick. That was a stupid, boneheaded pick of mine, but nevertheless, we had another winning week. We are 8-4-1 on the season. It's a new week, time for some new picks, and here we go. So game number 1 of the early afternoon window, let's do the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Carolina Panthers. Atlanta, a 5.5 point favorite on the road, and I'm going to go ahead and lay the points with the Falcons. Yes, I am picking against my own team. It's not the first time that it's happened, and it's dang sure not going to be the last time it happens. Look, we already knew the Falcons' offense was going to be good, but honestly, I had no idea that the Falcons' defense was going to be as good as we saw them on Sunday night against Minnesota. That young core had themselves a game. And that Falcons pass rush, who has 7 sacks on the season, I think is going to be too much for that Panthers O-line. And even though he played a little bit marginally better last week, Bryce Young has been struggling once again. His first 2 possessions last week against the Cardinals were a fumble recovered by the Cardinals for a touchdown and an interception that immediately put the Panthers in a 10-0 hole. And then the Panthers tried to come back in the game, and that final possession after Carolina recovered that crazy onside kick when they could have taken the lead in the game, Bryce Young went 0 for 5 in his throws with a couple of pre-snap penalties to boot, and the defense has been hot garbage this year. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay the 5.5 with the Atlanta Falcons. Game number 2 in the early afternoon window, let's do the Green Bay Packers taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Packers are getting 7.5 here on the road against the Browns, and I am smashing the Packers minus 7.5. You can make an argument here that in these first 2 games of the season that the Packers are a top 2 team in the NFC. They passed 2 tough tests with the Detroit Lions and the Washington Commanders, and now they're getting essentially a punching bag with the Cleveland Browns. That Browns offense has been horrible as expected with Joe Flacco, and last week you had the defense talking trash against the Ravens, saying that they weren't worried about Lamar Jackson and tackling Derrick Henry was no problem, and the only thing the Ravens did last week was put the absolute smackdown on the Cleveland Browns, and things got so bad that the Browns ended up benching Joe Flacco for Dylan Gabriel. So that elite Packers defense going up against that bad Browns offense, yeah, I'm smashing that 7.5 with the Packers. All right, so the late afternoon window. Let's do the Denver Broncos against the LA Chargers. Chargers 2.5-point favorites here at home. And so far, even though Denver is 2-0, the Broncos have been off to a slow start. Their defense was not that good against the Colts, allowing over 465 yards of offense. And the Broncos' offense, to me, has been underwhelming to this point. And Bo Nix has 4 turnovers on the year. And that Chargers defense, even though they're going to be without Khalil Mack, is really, really good. Plus, the Chargers are 2-0 against the spread this year. Justin Herbert has been phenomenal. As a matter of fact, the last 2 CW 6-packs, we took the Chargers against the spread. We're going to ride with the hot hand and go 3 in a row, and I'm going to lay the 2.5 here with the LA Chargers. All right, game number 4 here, second game of the late afternoon window. Let's do the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Chicago Bears. The Cowboys originally was a dog to start out, but now they're 1.5-point favorites here. Both of these defenses coming off of rough performances. The Cowboys defense struggled against the Giants, like I said, with Russell Wilson looking like he was back in Seattle, and the Bears defense giving up 52 points to the Detroit Lions. And listen, there's pressure on the Bears in this game, because if the Bears fall to 0-3, their season is as good as done. And honestly, I'm just about ready to sell my Bears stock. I just have more faith in this Cowboys offense. And plus, their defense is getting a boost with the signing of Jadeveon Clowney. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 1.5 with the Dallas Cowboys. All right, the Sunday nighter. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the New York Giants. And you know what? I'm going to be totally honest with you folks. If this game was not the Sunday nighter, I would not have taken this game. Because look, the Chiefs have been struggling on offense so far this year. Patrick Mahomes has only completed 59% of his throws, averaging 6.5 yards per throw, only 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Albeit their struggles came against 2 legitimate opponents, against the Chargers and the Eagles. And the Giants defense so far has not been as good as I originally thought they were going to be. And the thing is, I don't know which version of Russell Wilson we're going to get in this game. I don't know if we're going to get Seattle Russ, Denver Russ, or Pittsburgh Russ, and I explained all of that yesterday. And the Chiefs' offense has averaged 19 points per game and given up 23.5 points per game on defense. The Giants are averaging 21 points per game, and the defense, like I mentioned, has been giving up 30 points per game. And with these two teams and how they've been playing so far, 6.5 kind of feels like a lot of points to me. I like the Chiefs to win the game, but I'm going to take the Giants to cover the 6.5. And last but not least, the Monday nighter. We got the Detroit Lions taking on the Baltimore Ravens. This is an absolute banger of a game for Monday night. One of the best games of the week, and we haven't been really getting a whole lot historically on Thursday nights, let alone Monday nights. But this right here, the Lions and the Ravens, one of the best games of the week. Both of these teams coming off of blowout wins. Baltimore 5.5-point favorites here. And listen, here's a stat here that is kind of going to coincide with my pick. Lamar Jackson does not lose to NFC teams. Lamar Jackson is 24-2 as a starter against the NFC, and I believe as long as John Harbaugh doesn't put on his best Doc Rivers impression and blow this game on national television, I'm going to bank on precedent here, and I'm going to take the Ravens to win and cover the 5.5. So this week's picks, I'm taking the Falcons minus 5.5. I'm taking the Packers minus 7.5, the Chargers minus 2.5, the Cowboys minus 1.5, the Giants plus 6.5, and the Baltimore Ravens minus 5.5. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of the CW 6-Pack. Like, comment, subscribe,
Click that notification bell to be notified of when I post again. And also follow me on Twitter and on Bluesky at CW Talk Sports. That's CWTALKS Sports. Enjoy the football, everyone, and I will see y'all the next time. Peace.